share with you my Joseph story. I wish each one of you could stand here in my place, one by one, for just a moment, to see the compassion, the understanding, and love on the faces of all the people here today to support each other in the names of those we love, those that are here with us, or are here in memory and spirit. It's an amazing and overwhelming feeling for me, a very good feeling. People are here today to unite and fight this painful disease that affects so many lives in many ways. I knew that I'd have to stand here today, and that putting words on paper was very difficult for me. Late last night, a very dear person who has known me my whole life reminded me that statistics are good for people to know that speaking from the heart is just as important no matter how difficult and how emotional. So with that said, please bear with me while I share Joyce's story with you from my heart and on behalf of the hearts who love her. She is our angel, and thank you to my family for reminding me that I can use my emotions to make myself heard. We should all use our emotions to reach people and all make ourselves heard. This past Friday afternoon, my daughter Josie was discharged from her med center after a 3-day stay. As I sat there realizing that I would be speaking here today, I started to become very overwhelmed with thought, emotions, and I realized how scared I was over speaking, how silly I was being. And yet at the same time, I asked myself, how am I going to find the strength and courage to speak in front of everybody? Seeing as I had never spoken before in front of a crowd. As I sat in that hospital room, I looked at Josie sharing her hospital bed with a 5-year-old cancer patient named Caitlin. Josie had quickly taken Caitlin under her wing and tried her best to shelter her from scared feelings and put a smile on her face, teaching her how to duct tape projects, a common little girl's arts and crafts project these days. I saw the anxiety and scaredness in Caitlin's face slowly disappear, and I thought some more, and I realized what the heck do I have to be nervous and afraid of? I have the perfect example of strength, courage, patience, and great spirit, belief, and love, all of this staring me right in the face. I then realized I had learned the same things from my daughter for years since she was a little girl. More recently, over the last 3 years, I've seen her in a painful and very debilitating state. Yet she still manages to push her pain to the side and spread love and cheer onto all those who surround her at home, at school, at church, even though she needs my chance. All those that come to meet Josie during my life are guaranteed to walk away with smiles on their faces. At 13, Josie suffers constantly from juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, Lyme disease, Bartonella, chronic anemia, as well as unexplained and severe stomach pains causing her weight to bounce back and forth between 50 and 60 pounds. She was always a healthy and active young girl, a cheerleader, a dancer, a gymnast, active at school and church and in our community, always going out of her way willingly and lovingly to help and to care for others. In April 2008, upon our return home one day from our son's soccer game at our local community park, Josie came to me saying something was really itchy on her back, but she couldn't reach it to scratch it. I turned her around and there it was, a tear tick. Wasn't even really attached, just enough to spread its disease when I pulled it off. Apparently biting her and not being embedded in her was all it took at that moment. 3 weeks later, we knew immediately she had Lyme disease after a bullseye rash was seen as evidence and treated with antibiotics for 3 weeks. We know now that treatment should have been 4 weeks, not 3. This rash appeared and disappeared within 3 to 4 hours, and we all missed it. If it weren't for my daughter walking out of her school auditorium during testing, and against the proctor telling her not to when she has to go to the nurse's office, the rash would have disappeared by the time she got home from school, and we never would have known. In August of 2008, during a gymnastics meet, Josie twisted her knee. Her small knee turned the size of a grapefruit, and remained that way for almost 12 weeks. After being seen by 2 specialists, they agreed that she was showing signs of arthritis. That arthritis had set into her injury. In December of 2008, she was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And after being given cortisone shots in her knee, the right ankle blew out, doubling in size, and then her left knee, and then her left ankle. The Progression was slow during the next 4 months after the initial blow-ups, but within the next 5 months, mostly all her joints from the neck down became diseased, crippling her knees, her ankles, elbows, wrists, fingers, back, and hips. She started losing weight and weighed in at 60 pounds. After I had made numerous requests to her rheumatologist, he finally agreed to insert a PICC line into her arm and chest in an attempt to again treat the Lyme. He was very apprehensive, and he kept saying he saw no signs of Lyme disease in the Western Rocky ward had come back negative. She was given 30 days of Herceptin. For 1 month solid, she herself insisted on pushing antibiotics into her body daily, with me and or her dad standing by her side. She seemed to be doing better somewhat after that, but it was only short-lived. During the winter of 2009, she went to bed every night in pain and woke up every morning crying and aching. She was unable to roll over or even sit up on her own. It was difficult for us to help her without hurting her. No school those days for sure, just bed. By the time spring of 2010 came along, she was still in pain and now unable to maneuver her upper or lower body at all and required braiding on assistance. All joints were still very much inflamed with arthritis. Every little thing she tried to do for herself was difficult. Even something as simple as trying to button a shirt, put on socks, or brush her hair. She quickly found herself needing help from family and friends. She could not bend over at her waist. She couldn't bend her knees and elbows. She couldn't raise her arms above her head and could barely turn her neck from side to side. All along in total pain, all day and every day, being carried around the house, unable to stand up on her own without screaming out in pain. She begged me not to touch her frail body. By June 2010, things had gotten worse, and she lost even more weight. In July of 2010, she hit her worst period. She was down to 50 pounds, became very weak at one point, unresponsive on the couch, in a fetal position for almost 3 weeks. Several of her friends would try to keep in constant contact and make visits to try and cheer her up by reading to her, listening to music, and talking to her about teenage things girls do. Just knowing we were all there pulling for her and praying for her seemed to help. Through that summer, although at this time her father and I were divorced, she was cared for on a daily basis equally as much from both homes, and also had the support from extended family and friends who love her so dearly. That care and support still continues to this day. Also at this time, I was laid off by my employer, and very quickly found myself a single mother of 2, laid off, taking care of my very sick daughter, and very soon after the insurance ran out. Bills to pay that I couldn't pay, some relating to everyday life's responsibilities, and on top of that, now I had medical bills that I needed help paying for. During the rest of July and August of 2010, treatments remained intact. Although they tried different medicines for different issues along the way, by the time that August came, she started to come around, but quickly relapsed once again, as she had a sciatica attack, which left her with great pain for 2 weeks straight. No pain meds gave her any relief. It left crippling effects, and now we are most definitely wheelchair bound. At this point in time, I was still fighting to get her medical assistance approved. Again, I started expressing my concerns that Lyme was very much still an issue. I panicked as any mother would have. And thanks to the amazing people on Wagner, I met someone who canceled their son's personal appointment with the infamous Dr. Jones in Connecticut and messaged me personally to insist that my Joseph take their son's appointment. No questions asked, it was hers for the taking. This is how Lyme take care of each other. I called Jones' office immediately, overnighted the records as he requested, and within a few short days, we were there in person. It was an amazing experience in its own. He had stayed up all night the night before reviewing the records. When we got there, he knew every little detail. I didn't have to really say anything. He had already knew my concerns and had fully explained and answered my questions. He immediately agreed that Lyme was her issue. He did special testing through IGS. The testing came back positive. I felt relieved that we could finally start a treatment, but I quickly realized the battle had just begun. We started an antibiotic treatment, and during the treatment, she seemed to progress nicely from what I could tell. Symptoms started to lessen the more Hersheimer reactions she had. Her little body was so filled with spirochetes and other infections that she was having constant Hersheimer's left and right. Her other specialists tried to tell me that the antibiotics were not working, but they were. They didn't know the cause because they weren't there to experience her reactions on a daily basis. As she had all her Hersheimer's, the Lyme symptoms lessened and started to fade away. She started to regain mobility once again. Unfortunately, her other specialist, still in denial that she had Lyme, insisted that I take her off the Lyme medicine in order to give her the best possible start to her arthritis treatment while medicated. I was not happy about this, as I was stuck in the middle as a parent and felt like she was not being harmed. And because the medical world and the LLMD world don't work together to save our children, let alone our adults. In my opinion, arthritis specialists should stick to arthritis, and Lyme disease specialists should stick to Lyme disease. Why would we want to see a Lyme specialist if we have Lyme disease? Would you go to your regular PCP for breast cancer treatment? Absolutely not. When diseases like this coincide, specialists on both sides of the medical world should not be afraid to work together and learn from each other. But because of all the restrictions in the medical world and within the CDC, Lyme disease is not recognized as a chronic illness, and not enough is known by other specialists in the medical world. So Lyme specialists are automatically judged upon and made to seem inferior. In reality, it can save our children, and it can save the adults too. And because both sides of the medical world argue what treatment is really necessary and when, the insurance companies are able to get out and provide insurance coverage, and the victims are left with extensive medical bills, pushing many of us into financial hardship. During the previous 2 years, Josie had 5 blister blood tests. Out of those 5, the first and the 4th came back positive, while the others were negative. To this day, she still shows many symptoms of Lyme disease. Lyme disease does not follow any of the rules. It has its own agenda to sneak into your body and hide itself, disguising itself as other diseases, all along continuing to do more damage to your body. Getting back to Josie, after the sciatica attack passed, and while continuing treatments, she eventually started making slow progress to the point where the pain has now started to lessen, and her upper body is a little bit better. Not 100%, but much better. Certain tasks still remain harder than others. She can function at school and around the house, thanks to the donation of a wheelchair, awesome friends at school, teachers and the staff at her school, and her loving family. The cause of the unexplained severe stomach pain still remains a mystery, and one that her doctors are working hard on together to solve. In Josie's case, finding the answer to solve this mystery is not an easy one. The arthritis in her lower body is still very much a problem, as she fights her daily battles from the chair. More recently, Josie has again switched to arthritis medicine, which requires her to receive infusions at Hershey Medical Center. The first 2 treatments helped almost immediately, but the 3rd and 4th are not working. Why, you may ask? Lyme disease is the basis of her problems. Until treated for Lyme, nothing else will help. Currently, I'm still fighting for all her doctors to work together, as Lyme is taking over and destroying her life that she is trying to live. It's robbing her of happiness, it's robbing her of who she is inside as a person. It's robbing all of us of what Josie can give to each of us personally as individuals. It's robbing this world of seeing how very special she is and what she could do with her life, just as it is all the other sufferers. But make no mistake, she is a fighter, and her determination is great. Her inner strength shines through, and every day she still manages to spread her love and sweetness unto everyone else all along, continuing to push her painful struggles aside. She was the first honors student 3 years running, adored by all her teachers, peers, friends, and family. She has been and continues to be a role model. Most importantly, she wants to make her voice heard and her story known to help others. We spent the last 3 days at Hiroshima for an upper endoscopic procedure, biopsies, to see what's causing her stomach pains. She now has a feeding tube so we can provide her the nutrition she desperately needs. Her knees and ankles were injected, and this Friday she'll return to Hershey for her hip surgery as well. In the meantime, we await the results. Is gastrointestinal Lyme a possibility? Absolutely. But guess what? This doesn't exist in medical journals. Why not? It's not recognized in the rest of the medical world by other specialists other than LLMDs. Let's not the Lyme tree to the LLMDs. Let's put an end to the debate and recognize that there is an epidemic upon us. People are being misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, undertreated, mistreated, and in many cases, fatalities can occur. How many more lives have to be destroyed before our medical community wakes up and realizes we can be saving our children and our adults? So many doctors say that prolonged antibiotics are not necessary. Well, as I mentioned, Josie was taken off the Lyme meds, and slowly but surely the symptoms all returned. Only now we had 2 episodes of severe blurred and focusing issues, and she couldn't see right, first for 1 hour, and then almost 10 hours the next time. During this time that she was off her Lyme meds, we had her tested to see if she was still allergic to amoxicillin, as she was as a small child. During the testing, she did well, so the allergist sent her home with a script, and we put her on a full dose for 5 days, as if she wouldn't really need it. She did not react, and during the whole 7 days, I very quickly realized that her Lyme symptoms lessened, and the complaining was less, and the stomach pain she had was lessened. Interesting. Coincidence? I think not. Antibiotics are needed. Long-term antibiotics are what we definitely need. Doctors say that there are too many issues with long-term antibiotics, but one, that choice should be made up to the patient to make, or the parents of a minor. And 2, how is that any different than abusing a child with major arthritis medications time after time after time? Because that specialist says that they are needed, so are the Lyme antibiotics. We have been off the amoxicillin for almost 3 weeks now. We just received our first sightings of symptoms again. If we put her back on amoxicillin, I guarantee they would disappear again. Antibiotics are needed, so. With continued treatments, Josie, myself, and the rest of our family have every hope and reason to believe that she believes into debilitating disease and in the teenage lifestyle she so greatly deserves. She's been robbed of so much of her life already, and now the medical world is robbing her of the opportunities to get her life back. This disease, like others, has such a devastating effect not only on the victim, but on their family and friends as well. It's an emotional struggle on a daily basis, not only physical, but also be financial one. The Medicaid coverage will not cover her trips to see her Lyme specialist in Connecticut, and in turn will not cover the testing we by California lab. Thank you very much.
Josie and Lisa, thank you very much. And we have